Most of the time when you interview, you're not just being evaluated on how good of a fit you are for the role, but you're also being evaluated on your communication skills. I've been a recruiter for 13 years and I've interviewed thousands of people, and here are 5 of the most common communication mistakes candidates make in their interview that keep them from getting a job offer. Let's go. One of the big mistakes candidates make is they downplay their accomplishments. So it seems like a silly thing here, but what a lot of candidates do is they do what I just did. I don't know if you noticed it, but I said it seems like a silly thing. So for example, in an interview, a recruiter might ask you, give me an example of a time you did blank. And what candidates do that is a mistake is they'll say, oh, well, it wasn't that big of a deal, but what I did was blank. Or, this is kind of a silly example, but when I was doing this, I did blank. You don't want to do that. There is no reason to downplay your accomplishments, to downplay the things you did. And when they're specifically asking you a question, they want to see what you did in that space, in that environment, to that stimuli. And when you say something along the lines of, well, it wasn't that big of a deal, or this is kind of silly, what you're doing is you're eroding the value in the answer you are giving the recruiter. So the first big mistakes that candidates often make when they are in an interview is they downplay their accomplishments. Don't do that. The next thing that candidates do that is a mistake in the interview process is they use filler words. Words like like, or little noises that they make to fill gaps because they're not ready to move forward. This is a mistake, and what it does is it kind of takes away from your examples. Most people who do this have no idea they're doing it, or they're aware of it, but they're not able to control it in the moment. What this really comes down to is preparation and practice. A lot of the questions you're going to get in the interview process, you can do practice for. You can find them online, you can do research, you can watch some of my videos, and you can do a few run-throughs so that you feel more comfortable and you're not pausing. Being prepared and practicing are the best ways to avoid using filler words. The next mistake that a lot of candidates make is they have long-winded answers. I can tell you as a recruiter, there have been hundreds and hundreds of times where I'm talking to a candidate, I ask them a question that could probably be answered in 45 to 75 seconds. Concise, quick, efficient. But the candidate goes on for 3, 4, 5, 6 minutes. I can tell you as a recruiter, there is virtually 0 questions that require a 6-minute answer. When you are asked a question in the interview process, make sure you think about the amount of time you're going to spend doing it. Most questions can be answered in 30 to 90 seconds. So what I would do, if you think you've had a problem with this in the past, is I would look up some very common interview questions. I've got videos on that, and practice answering them and time yourself. And if you find yourself consistently going over 120 seconds, 150 seconds, you know you were taking way too long. Economy of words means that you are getting your message across in an efficient way, and it is incredibly important in an interview process because interviews are often short by nature. You're talking about 30 or 45-minute conversations. That means you can't take up 3, 4, 5, 6 minutes per question. One of the other communication mistakes that I see people make a lot is they say things that aren't insulting, that's not how they mean them to be, but they come across as a bit insulting, like I said, or as I said before. These are terms that just in general, whether you're interviewing or working with a client, you want to scrub them from your vocabulary. I mean, think about it. If you were at a store and you asked a question to the person who's helping you, and you asked a question again, maybe you didn't understand, and they said to you, well, like I said, Ben, how would you take that? Well, it's the same thing. In an interview, you do not want to say that. It's a mistake. People do it a lot. They don't do it in a way that's supposed to be venomous. They're not trying to be insulting, but it doesn't come across great. Another big mistake that candidates make in the interview process is they say things like, well, I don't want to brag, or, I'm not trying to boast. That is not helpful. First and foremost, when you say that, it actually makes it sound like you are trying to brag. It makes it sound like you are being braggadocious, and that doesn't help you. The reality is, you're in an interview. You're supposed to be selling yourself. You're supposed to be talking about your accomplishments. And the recruiter doesn't think you're bragging. But if you say something along the lines of, I don't want to brag, it makes it seem like you need to excuse what you were about to say, which comes across as weird, and it makes it seem like you're bragging in the beginning. So that is a simple thing to just scrub it from your vocabulary. Don't say that. If you find yourself in your next interview saying, I don't want to brag, do not say it, skip over it, give them the example, and be confident in the answer you're giving. Now, a lot of those are things that you don't want to say in an interview, but if you want to watch a video that's going to give you 9 things to say in an interview to get hired, you got to go watch this video. There are things you definitely want to avoid saying, but there are also things that you should say that are going to make you seem like a great candidate. And this video, well, it highlights 9 of them. So go watch this video now.